Good afternoon, guys. It's working. Bringing you a quick update on a couple coins here. We're going to be looking at EOS, Ethereum, and Ripple. Hope you guys are having a wonderful afternoon. We're going to start out with EOS, guys. We're looking at EOS to the dollar. This is the 4-hour chart on Bitfinex, and EOS is having a great run, man. I mean, the bulls are really doing an incredible job here, much better than I actually expected. We're looking at assuming that this is the bottom, and we are starting more of an uptrend, and assuming that this is sustainable. And I am assuming a lot here, guys. But if we look at this, it looks to me like if I put on my Elliott hat, we are starting to see some kind of volume increase here. And so as volume increases, I start looking at Elliott a little bit more and more. The possibility that this is and this isn't a beautiful count at all. Remember, this is all in terrible volume, but the possibility this is all an ABC, a truncated C here. Is that beautiful? No, it's not beautiful at all, but it's very possible. If that is the case, we're looking at the start of excuse me, guys, the start of a primary wave one. If that's the case, we're looking at possible subwaves here. The subwaves that I'm counting here so far, I'm looking at this as a 1, 2. Here's where it gets tricky. I'm either looking at a 3, 4, and now we'd be up for the 5, or I'm looking at this all as a 3, still waiting on the 4, and then we'd be coming up for the 5 after that. Now, if I dig in here, I've already done it, guys. Yes, I can get the subwaves to make it work either way. But personally, I'm starting to lean towards this possibly still continuing to be, or excuse me, this being all a primary wave one. And within that wave one, I'm looking at this being a 3, a 4, and now coming up for the 5. Now, if that is in fact the case, guys, if this is what we're looking at, we are, let me kind of just draw it out for you here, guys, so we can you can see a little bit better. So this would be our primary wave 3, or excuse me, our subwave 3 here. We can see we came up, hit perfectly off the 1618 fib. This is why I'm thinking this would be our subwave 3. So if that is in fact the case, so we'd be looking at a 1, 2, this being the 3, this coming down for the 4, and now we'd be coming up for the 5th. If that is in fact the case, guys, what are we looking at? Well, if I draw my fib extension off of that, whoop, there we go. If I target just a 1-to-1 off of this 5th, and that's a very conservative target, we're looking at about 6.69, let's call it 670, somewhere thereabouts. So we'd be looking at our wave 5 coming at the top of this supply zone at about 670, and that makes sense to me. Now, it doesn't mean it's not going to retrace in the short term. In fact, it looks like it has. We're finding some resistance out of this order block right over here. We can look over here. We can see it's finding resistance right there. Wouldn't be surprised to see a retrace. If it does, I'd like to see a retesting of this zone between at the top of which is 5.96, come back down, retest that zone, and then bounce right off from there. That'd be an extremely bullish indication. If we do come back down, test this zone, and price just starts meandering slowly down there, guys, that's going to be a very bearish indication. So let's see if this thing has legs. Let's see what kind of correction that we get here. But it looks to me like a possible short-term correction and then back up to complete that 5th wave. Now, it doesn't mean it has to come up here. Once we hit this supply zone, I am expecting this to act as a decent resistance, so we can see the price came up, wick, and then just broke right down. So there's a lot of sell orders that are sitting up in here, guys, and we're going to have to wait and see how that ends up playing out if and when it does hit that supply zone. We may get a strong rejection off that. If we come into this supply zone and just start kind of consolidating, that's going to be extremely bullish. If we start consolidating in this supply zone between 6.45, 6.70, that's going to be a very, very bullish sign, guys. To the downside, as I said, guys, if we start consolidating back into this 5.96, as long as it holds, that's okay. If it does break down below this 5.96, that's going to be a very bearish indication. But overall, guys, we finally broke above this massive descending resistance line that's been in place for a while. Again, that's a very bullish indication. Looking on the 4-hour chart, we're just getting into overbought territory. That's okay. We know many times in the past EOS get into overbought territory, and it continues to rise. And if we look at the daily, we still have plenty of room to rise. The daily is only sitting on about 59.60 RSI. So that's, again, I'm talking about RSI, guys, if you weren't, sorry about that if I confused you. So yeah, we're sitting at about, yeah, 59 RSI on the daily, and on the 4-hour, we're just now getting into overbought territory, but we know it can go much higher, especially with the daily. So we are way extended on the stock RSI. So again, I wouldn't be surprised to see a short-term correction and then continuation of the uptrend, but being very vigilant, knowing that this thing could turn around at any moment. If we come in here and we look at our daily chart on ESI or on EOS, we just broke above the 50-day EMA. That is a bullish sign. If the daily candle can close above this 55-day EMA, guys, that's going to be a very, very bullish indication of strength. Coming over here and looking at shorts. Shorts are starting to drop off fairly rapidly. If we come over here and look at longs, longs are starting to stack fairly rapidly. So retail is starting to reverse its position, which means be careful because market makers can drive this thing. We've seen on a dime in either direction. And as of right now, looking at volume on EOS, volume is sitting at just over at 1.1 billion. That is a very good sign. We're starting to see new money enter into this market. Very, very good sign. As long as that volume continues, then we know new money's entering, and then we know that that's a very bullish indication. If we see that volume start to drop off, again, then market makers can manipulate this market much easier. And at that point, guys, they could take this thing right back down. So we want to be very, very careful. If you're wanting to enter a position at this point, I would hold off and wait and see how this thing plays out or I would dollar cost average in, which might not be a bad idea. One thing is for sure, if and when this is a longer term bull run that everyone's waiting for, all the TA can go out the window and this thing can just crash through resistance areas like butter. So we need to be very careful. But at the same time, guys, we need to protect our money, and this is not financial advice by any means, but do not FOMO into a position. How many times have we seen the market spike like this only to turn right back around? And everybody ends up losing their money. So just be very careful. Do not FOMO into a position. You know, if you end up not buying and it goes higher, that's okay. There's going to be a lot more opportunity going forward. All right, if we come in here and we look at Ethereum, Ethereum, this is on the 4-hour chart, guys. Ethereum came up. It's hit this 251 resistance area that we've been talking about for quite some time. It rejected there, got down below this ascending resistance line here that I've been pointing out for a while. That ascending resistance line is a very strong resistance, has been in place, as I showed you guys before, for many, 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 many months, going all the way back to July, or excuse me, to January, excuse me. So yeah, we know that's a very strong resistance area. We need to see price decisively break above that resistance area, and by decisively, I mean I need to see a 4-hour candle, preferably a daily, but at the bare minimum, I need to see a 4-hour candle open and close, not just open, not just close, open and close above this descending resistance line and above this 251 resistance point here, $251 resistance point, and this ascending resistance line. If I get both of those things, I think we'll get a very quick rise up to this order block up in here, this supply zone up here at the medium of which is 287, but it really goes from about 300 all the way down to about 276. So I think we can get a very quick rise. If we do break above this 251 decisively, we can get a very quick rise to at least 276 and somewhere thereabouts. And it'll be a real test to see how price reacts when we get to this zone up here. If we do break above this zone here, guys, if we break above, let's call it about 312. If we break above 312, there's not a lot of resistance between 312 and 470. Not much at all. There is some, but not much at all. So once we get above about 312, you know, there's little pockets of resistance, but price could conceivably just shoot up and not really find a lot of resistance until it gets up to probably around 410, 400, somewhere thereabouts, guys. So Ethereum is looking like it's got a lot of potential. But again, guys, we know if we come over here, and I'm going to check our long and short positions on Ethereum, Ethereum shorts are just dropping like a rock. And look at longs. Longs are starting to skyrocket. So again, market makers have incentive to bring price down. Remember, this is a zero-sum game, guys. Not everybody can make money. Market makers can move this thing on a dime. If we look at Ethereum's volume is spiking, as is everything else. That's a very good sign. As long as volume continues to spike, guys, then you know new money is entering the market. The more new money enters the market, the less manipulated it gets. It's still going to be very manipulated, don't get me wrong. But right now, market makers could literally move it on a dime. The more new money gets in, the harder that is. So let's just keep an eye on that. When we come over here and we check finally Ripple. Where are we here? There we go. Looking at Ripple, Ripple is just, again, ridiculous, guys. I mean, it's just unbelievable what Ripple is doing, guys. It came up here, spiked all the way up to about 79 cents before we got that very strong rejection right back down. And now we're sitting at about, we just blew through this supply zone here at 44 cents to 47 cents, blew through it like butter. Now, this is not a typical bull run. This started long before anything else did. This is insider information. I don't know what's going on with Ripple, guys. I know they're testing XRP. I know there's rumors of Saudi Arabia implementing banks in Saudi Arabia implementing the XRapid system, which would use XRP. Now, I'm not saying that's true. I'm not saying that's happening. I have no idea. But what I do know is this is not natural. This is not natural, and anything that's not natural, guys, I kind of tend to, if you want to pick up a little bit, knowing that there might be a lot of insider information coming on, knowing some very bullish information might come out here short term, you might want maybe a little bit, but guys, do not FOMO in. I mean, this thing could just collapse immediately and right back down into this zone. And again, if I come over here and I check our short positions on Ripple, I mean, shorts are dropping like a rock. We look at our long positions on Ripple. Long positions are starting to rise. Now, not as rapidly, but again, they're starting to rise. We come in here and we look at, we can see that the price is now above the 200-day moving average. That's a very, very bullish sign. But again, guys, this is a non-technical, a very, very, very much, in my opinion, insider information, trading on insider information, and it reminds me again of that Bitcoin Cash move last year. If you guys were in crypto last year, you remember Bitcoin Cash just took off. Nobody knew why, and then eventually we find out that's because Coinbase was going to list it, and a lot of people must have known that ahead of time that the general public didn't, and that's why it was spiking. So there's something going on with Ripple. I don't know what it is, but if you wanted to slowly start average in, just know that you're literally buying on a on a top here. I mean, you're trying to buy the top here, and this thing could just collapse. And if it does, if price does end up falling back down here, I'm expecting it to find resistance at about 44 to 47 cents. That's a real possibility. But at this point, guys, all hands are off. I mean, at this point, anything could happen with Ripple. I have no idea what's going on here, and until I do know, I'm not going to enter any more of a position than what I already have. I already have my long-term holdings in Ripple. I'm just leaving it there at that until I know exactly what's going on. Will I miss out on some upside? Yeah, possibly, but I also am not going to lose any money, and again, that's the name of the game, guys. There will be a lot of opportunities going forward as long as you have money to take those opportunities. If you end up squandering that money away, you're not going to be able to take the opportunities in the future, guys. So this is all about living to fight and continuing to live to fight another day. Make smart decisions. Do not FOMO into anything. So anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it there. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, I would appreciate an upvote, re-steam, or a like if you have enjoyed this content, depending on where you're viewing it. Until next time, guys, please trade safe. Take care of yourselves. This is Working, signing out.